Do you want to turn your old plastic containers into something really cool? Then keep watching. I'll show you how I turned everyday garbage into this super cute planter for your indoor garden that you can keep for years to come. Here's what you'll need to build your planter: a plastic container, plastic bags, a ruler, scissors, a marker, a crochet hook, a hot glue gun, a saw, and a drill. If your container is too deep, the first thing you're going to want to do is cut it to make it however deep you want it. Since mine has a pretty narrow opening, I'm making it 4 inches deep. Take your ruler and marker and measure all the way around your container. Here I drew a line to connect all my markings so you know exactly where to cut. Next, use the saw to cut along that line. If you have a vise at home, then great, use it. Otherwise, please be careful. Or use a container with thinner plastic so you can cut it with sharp scissors. Don't be like me. Make better decisions. Ta-da! If you did a terrible job like me, then you can clean it up with scissors to make it a little more straight. It doesn't have to be perfect. Next, we make drainage holes at the bottom. If you want to use this as just a container, then go ahead and skip this step. Otherwise, make the drainage holes. Your plants will thank you later. I used a drill because the plastic on this container is very hard. If you're using a thinner plastic, you might be able to get away with using scissors. Maybe. I haven't tried it, but whatever it is you guys end up using to make the holes, please be careful. And again, if you have a vise at home, that might be helpful. Holes. Please excuse the weird arm thing. The next thing you're going to do is take your plastic bags and cut along that bottom seam like this. Cut along the main seam as well as the fold on both ends. Use as many bags as you need. I ended up using 4 plastic bags for this small planter. If you didn't cut enough, that's okay. You can always cut more later. And if you cut too much, you can always save it for another project. Make sure your plastic bag is nice and flat, and we're going to mark 2-inch strips all the way across the bag. I use this big ruler, but any ruler will do just fine. And if you're using a thicker plastic bag, make sure your strips are a little more narrow. This part is optional, but I like to flip my bag over and do those same marks on the other side. Sometimes I mess up when I'm making my cuts, and it just makes it easier to manage. I figured this out late in the game, but an easy way to cut your strips is to make sure your markings are aligned. make a small snip at one end and your scissors should easily glide across. Then make a snip to open it up. Don't get rid of those handles because we will be using those too. Now it's time to crochet. Take the end of one strip, wrap it around 2 fingers, and pull the longer side through the hole like this. This loop is where your crochet hook will go. Tighten that loop, but just enough to gently hug your crochet hook. Wrap the plastic strip around the hook and pull it through the loop like this. Keep repeating this pattern to make a nice long braided chain. Once you get to the end of your first strip, take a new strip and wrap that end around the end of the first strip. Twist the ends to keep them together and continue making your chain. Now we assemble our planter. If you had to shorten your container, take the top of it and flip it over so the part that screws onto the lid will be facing away from the container. Use a hot glue gun to seal all the way around the edge to keep the 2 parts together. For added stability, make a seal on the inside as well. Now that the 2 parts are connected, it's time to glue on the plastic braid. Start by anchoring the braid using the tail at the start of the braid. Make sure you don't glue the end with the loop in case you need to add more strips. When you're gluing the braids, make sure the side with the chain is facing up. The other side is okay, but it doesn't look as clean. Do this all the way around the container. I like to work in small increments because otherwise the glue will harden too quickly. Oh, and guys, please be careful with the hot glue gun. It's hot. Once you reach the end of the top lip, continue wrapping around the entire container. Glue your braids as closely as you can to avoid any holes and spaces. And here is our naked planter with the lid, which is now the water tray. Again, I used 4 plastic bags, including the handles. The amount you will need will depend on the size of the container you choose. I like to put on a layer of Mod Podge before painting because the acrylic paints that I use stick better to the tackiness of the Mod Podge, better than the smoothness of the plastic bags. I use a small paintbrush because I can get in all those tiny little grooves and spaces in the braids, but use whatever brush you want. This part is optional. If you want to leave your planter naked, then go for it. But I like to paint mine. I used black, but use whatever color you want. I won't be mad. I also decided to be a little fancy and leave a little naked strip in the middle. And if you want, you can paint your lid. Three coats of paint and 1,000,000 hours later, and it's time to seal it up with more Mod Podge. I did about 2 coats of Mod Podge. You don't want to put on the layers too thick or it'll dry weird. Also, make sure the first coat is completely dry before you put on the second coat. Ta-da! Now you have a beautiful upcycled planter that won't end up in the landfill or oceans. This one is a gift, but just in case you missed it in the beginning, this is one I made about 2 months ago with my peace lily loving her new home. Hope you liked this tutorial. See you next time. Bye!